So if the court doesn't declare a ruling date today, the final verdict may even be pushed to next week. We discussed this more with Professor Song Se-ryun this morning. Welcome back, Professor Song.
Good morning.
So aren't we expecting the court to announce the ruling date today, considering the announcement comes, at least 2 to 3 days before the ruling day?
I think it is imminent, but whether it be today, nobody's sure about that. I mean, the court has 180 days to finish the impeachment, so they have the time theoretically, until the mid-June. But of course, the proceeding was largely over, testimony part, in February 25th. So it's going on to about a month. So given that other impeachment proceedings ended within 2 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks would have been a good barometer. But I think the complexities and other considerations are making it the court very cautious about this schedule. But I think that end of March, probably if we go into the early part of April, probably that would be a very, very late one for this proceeding, because in the middle of the April, 2 justices come off the bench. So regardless of 180 days mark, I think it is a realistic, very tight deadline when it gets to the April. So I would think that this week, I think that more realistically next week would be the decision day.
Indeed. Well, many are expecting that Friday will be the big day. The question is, why Friday morning? Many say Friday morning. Why ahead of the weekend?
Well, Friday is conventionally a good day to announce it because it works as a buffer. You have the weekend. The public may have the time to let off their steams, but more practically, you have a market consideration. If you announced a decision in the morning of the Friday, then the market can react to it and have a little bit of buffer over the weekend, so it gets easier to digest or whatever the decision is. But of course, this is just a convention or convenience, and it's a good idea to do it on Friday, but it's not a mandate. So the court, if they have more to discuss, more to deliberate, they'll spend their time.
Well, you mentioned that the justices are being very careful and cautious at the moment. But what do you think the justices are contemplating at this point of the progress? Or do you think they're trying to make unilateral votes, or what to include their final statements? What's on their mind?
Well, their question before them is whether to keep the job for President Yoon as a president or not. And there are procedural issues and the substantive issues and the testimonies that they have to consider because they are the fact finder. So there are numerous considerations they have. I think the biggest one is whether the elements for the constitutional requirement for the martial law is met, and second part is whether they are serious enough to strip them off the position. I think that the unanimous vote consideration, I think it is important because the court, although they are not required to consider political considerations, but the Constitutional Court, of course, has to think about the decisions they make, and probably that'll transpire some political schedules if there is a decision to strip them off the presidency. Then there has to be an election in 60 days. So they are mindful of the consequences of their decision. But I think that the most important thing they will focus on at this point is whether the decision is constitutionally sound and convincing to the people. And I think they're extra cautious about what kind of decision and what wordings, verbiage they will use to make that decision.
Well, it's been a while since we heard from President Yoon himself. He's been remaining silent ever since his release from custody. Has been maintaining very low profile posture. But why do you think he's being so quiet, and why is the legal team saying that it won't release a statement until the ruling?
I think that's a wise thing to do as somebody who's waiting for the decision of the court. I wouldn't be surprised if not only himself, but he gave somewhat of a mum order to the people around him, to the defensive team as well, because you want to appear humble and respect the court's decision. I mean, what he says or what things that his people would say might instigate his supporters or can be misconstrued as somebody who's not really respecting the court's decisions. So he doesn't want to get into any kind of misunderstanding at this point, and probably he will keep silent until the decision is made.
And maybe keeping a low profile, maybe the least and best that Yoon can do at this point. Now, Professor Song, before I let you go, we should probably expect the ruling for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's impeachment to come after the ruling for President Yoon, right?
Well, that's what people expect at this point, but I think there are enough variables because their decision would affect, or the decision, what comes first would affect the other in a way the political process is arranged. Remember, the presidential impeachment is more important than the Mr. Han's ministerial decision at this point. But I think that if the Prime Minister Han's decision comes first, I think he might indicate, or people will construe it as an indication that the certain decision will be made for President Yoon. But at this point, I think the prudent thing to assume is that more important agenda is taken care of first, and that would be the president's impeachment motion.
All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your time and your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.